We're going to take a look at Glide. This is a solo and cooperative sci-fi RPG adventure, and I also have a small expansion that I will show you. These are the core rules, and you can see the credits for the game here. I will put a link to the game down below so you can figure out how you can get it yourself if this looks of interest to you. There's further credits here. This was a Kickstarter game, and we're looking at the version 1.0 of the game from September 2022. It starts out with a story about the world where there was a place that was highly prized for its minerals and riches and exploited for that, and that it is left as a barren world, and you are a member of a group of nomads, traders, ecological experts, and hopefuls that have come to this place to hope to rebuild it, to find what was left behind, and try to restore the planet to its past beauty and splendor. So the book opens that way, and then it gets right into the guilds that are found on this planet and the remnants of those guilds and the views that they have about how the planet should work, and that the great houses control everything of value in this world and what they are and what the minor houses are, and then mention of the Seeker, which is what you're playing. So after giving you all that kind of backstory, then it goes into a little discussion of what is a solo RPG and tells you what you need to play this game, which is a standard deck of playing cards, 3 6-sided die, a token, a copy of the character sheet, a map and location sheet, and then pencils and such, and optional tokens to represent there are values of fuel, stamina, and water in the game. I will say that in the book itself, if you get the physical copy of the book, you don't get the map or location sheet even reproduced here at all. So you'll have to go to the website to see what they are and then download them. The map is basically a blank blank hexes. So you can see what it looks like here. I used a different one, and I used my own character sheet, but it's oddly not reproduced in here, so you don't have a sense of what that is. Further discussion of what the world is. It's home to people from all walks of life, natives and off-world. There are traders, adventurers, and explorers, and everything works with this concept of credits. So you are exchanging and finding new materials for credits and using credits to buy things. There is a shortness of water, so there are moisture capturing devices, and fresh water becomes one of the commodities of the world that can be sold at a high price. And you, as a seeker, are welcomed as long as you respect the traditions of this planet. Brief section on character creation. It is fairly simple with 3 stats of hardy, which is your ability to survive in the harsh environment, knowledgeable, which tells you what or gives you a benefit in searching and how to navigate the world in your glider, which is what you travel around in, and your skill with technology, and resourcefulness, knowing how to solve problems with minimal resources and where to look and find answers. So you will choose from your stats when you perform a skill test, and the book will give you prompts in many cases as to you can choose which of your stat to use in order to perform the skill test. So depending on how strong you are in a certain area, you can make that choice. There are 6 predetermined character backgrounds, and they come with the stats already assigned, as well as a goal to basically level up. So if you are a soldier, you will have a hardy value of 3, knowledgeable 1, and resourceful 2. You will have a +1 of your total stamina. Stamina is a value that is used to benefit a stat in a test. And then you have a goal, and when you attain that goal, you will level up by getting the benefit that is here, and they are kind of thematic to the character. So if you play a merchant, for example, your strong stat is that you are knowledgeable, and your ongoing benefit is that when you are doing trades, you get to choose 2 cards. So the randomness of what you encounter in the world comes in based on the draw from the poker deck. So in this case, with a haggler, you get to draw 2 cards in certain trades and then see what they are and choose one. So that makes sense if you're playing a merchant. Whereas, for example, if you're playing an explorer, your resource stat is the high one, and you get to re-roll a die during a skill test that is going to involve delving and navigating ruins and things. So actually, it sort of says any skill test, I guess. So you will have the benefit in that manner. There's a scoundrel, a navigator, and a freelancer, as well as the soldier and the merchant. There are things in the world that involve the mechanics of the game. So credits are a abstract concept for the currency of the game that can be spent on things, and you have no maximum there, and you start with 50 credits. Scrap is an abstraction of recovered things from wreckage and ruins, and you can trade scrap in settlements for the credits or to fulfill quest requirements that you may be given from the guilds, and we'll see how that works in a minute. You start with 5 scrap storage as your maximum, and you can potentially increase that. Relics are pieces of the past that can be traded for credits or used for quests. And then quest items are those things designated as such that will be something you will find during the course of your travels through the world, and it will be indicated as a quest item. And to fulfill certain quests, you may need to get certain number of quest items. Stamina is a value that is the energy you have to accomplish things or pass skill tests. You start with 5, and 10 is the maximum you can have. You will be using your stamina every time you explore. Water is a resource that can be used to recover stamina, and if you have a water, you can use it to recover 3 stamina, and you need water, as well as fuel. Fuel is going to run your glider, and the glider is what you need to travel around, and you'll start with 3 fuel as your maximum, and 6 is the maximum possible. So fuel is going to be used to move an additional amount on the map, which is to say an additional hex on the map. So it's explaining what I already said, which is that the skill tests will be indicated by a letter, and sometimes you have an option. So if it says H or R, for example, you could use either your hardy or resourceful stat. It might say any, so you could choose which stat you wanted to use, or it might give you a specific letter, which means in this case, if it was a K, you would have to use the knowledge stat for that skill test. How do you use the skill test? Well, you will be rolling a d6, and you need to roll the number of dice equal to the level of the location that you are at. So when you are traveling around, you will be pulling in cards to indicate what level location you are. And let's say you are at level 2, so then you would have to roll 2 successes at that location. And you would be using the number of dice equal to the stat you have. So for example, if you have a 3 hardy value, you would use hardy for a test. And if it's a level 3 location, you would need to get 3 successes. So to get a success, you would need a result of 3 or less to count as a success. Now, this does seem kind of hard, and it is kind of hard actually, but that's where stamina comes in, because you can use your stamina to re-roll any number of the dice. So, for example, if you had rolled this value of a 3, 2, and a 6, you would have 1 failure there. You're still looking for another success, so you could use the stamina to re-roll, and if you re-rolled, let's say you got a 3 or less, then you would get your successes, and you would complete whatever test you were trying to do there. So you can see where it's important to maintain your stamina, and you can do that by drinking water to have the stamina to allow you to re-roll. You can also see why the explorer character that lets you re-roll for free, in effect, is a pretty strong character, because it's hard to succeed in these tests because you have to roll your stat level or lower, and that's challenging to do. This is an exploration. Well, it says here it's a sandbox for you to explore. There's no combat to defeat you. You're not going to die. If you run out of stamina or water, you're not going to have a penalty for that. You're going to, it says, take your time and tell a story with the tools provided. And it is, in that sense, a unique game because you are encouraged to do narrative development and exploration of the world, to basically experience the world and have it unfold as you go through and drawing cards. And that is, in effect, what you are doing. It begins with your drawing just a random card, and if you have a red suit, you will choose a kind of introduction event to start your story, or a black suit, you will choose a different introduction event to start your story. And that is how you get going. It gives you a little, it's like a backstory that impacts your stats to set you off on the story. So for example, if you drew a red suit, you would have these options of choice. These are narrative decisions that you make at the beginning, but they will impact the game. So for example, you could choose that your character is returning home, meaning you get to rest in the starting location for free, plus you can recover up to 1 water, and you get 50 additional credits. If, for example, you got a black suit card and you decided to be a quiet wanderer, you would get a 1 maximum to your stamina right away, a +1 to any stat, but the restriction that you could not have a companion come with you if you encountered one in the world, because you prefer to work alone and keep to yourself. So you begin the game by drawing a random card and then making a decision about how you want your character to be impacted by that. You take actions during a turn, which is to move, to reveal a new area, to explore, to encamp over the night, or to do a settlement action. And the actions are additional movement, revealing, pulling a card in to reveal a new location, to explore within a location, or to camp, to recover 3 stamina and have a new day happen. Settlement actions are, you can spend some money to get all your stamina back. You can buy something from the water merchant. You can refuel your glider. You can purchase equipment or glider upgrades. You can visit a guild or complete a quest. So going to a guild, as we'll see, will give you some quests to do. You can draw a card from the deck and look at the encounter table to basically have an encounter in a settlement. You could trade your scrapper relics for credit, giving yourself credit to then use it for other things. So if you want credit to buy water, you could trade in some scrap you have, or you could find a companion. And to do that, you draw a card from the deck and look at the companion table to see who is around and if they can be hired. Essentially, the core is drawing cards, seeing what they say, and having that impact your stats and the story. So, for example, as you are moving into a new location, it's going to be falling into one of 5 categories. It will be a desert, unique, non-traversable, explorable, or a settlement. And you will then, based on what the location is, you can take actions. So the very first thing you do to find a location is you would draw a card. Say I drew a 7 of hearts. I would come down to the 7, the red suit locations, and it would be a sunken outpost, and it would be explorable. I need to assign it a level. We talked about knowing how many successes are needed in any given location. So the way you assign a level is also random. So you would roll a d6 to assign the level, and you would roll your d6 and get a number that results in the difficulty of exploration at that location. And you would indicate the location on your map, and you would do an exploration value by, again, going to the appropriate table. So if you were in the desert, for example, you would pull in a card, and if you pulled in a 6 of clubs, you would find a dried well and a ladder, and you would be able to attain a relic using any skill check, and you would also get 10 credits. So you basically found something there. And it's up to you to create the narrative that goes along with these explorations. In addition to doing the exploration, there are camping effects that you can pull in, weather effects that will occur. So at the end of the round, you'll draw another card and compare the results to the weather effect table, and then that will impact the next turn. So for example, if you drew in a queen, there would be spice clouds in the air. You would not be able to reveal locations next turn. Blue and orange dance together in pockets of brilliant sand spices. When you have money credits, you can upgrade your glider, and you have the equipment upgrades listed and what they cost. So for example, you could get a heat regulator in it so you would not lose stamina for extreme heat weather. You could have an equipment upgrade that might give you a +1 on hardy and a +1 on resourceful, but that's going to cost you quite a bit. That's 200 credits. So these are ways of essentially leveling up your character through leveling up the glider that you're traveling around in. And we see more tables here of settlement encounters, and the merchant trade value is also determined by randomness. You're just going through your card deck and pulling in cards to see what you are going to get for your scrap that you are trying to peddle, as well as for any relics that you have, including there might be no interest in your relics depending on what you pull in. We mentioned the companion table. So to find an available companion, again, drawing in a card, you would pay the credit cost. If you want to bring on the companion, you can only have one companion at a time. And as we noted, there is one character class that is not able to do this because they are loners. So, for example, you could bring on a floating robot or an ex-mercenary, and they will give you things that you can do, including re-rolling 2 skill tests or gaining an additional quest item if you find a quest item. The quests are given out in settlements. They're sort of key to giving yourself something to do in the game. You can only have one quest at a time, and when you complete the requirements for that, you return to the location where you got the quest, and then you get your reward for that quest. You can also abandon a quest at any time if it's not working out. And the different guilds that we referenced at the beginning of the video give out quests related to what they're interested in. So the Guild of Ecology, for example, a quest could be a species of seasonal plant is blooming that needs to be harvested quickly. To do that quest, you have to recover 5 plant samples, and you will get that reward of additional maximum water that you can carry, and a level of fame. A quest from the Guild of Relics, for example, could be to find a particular relic that they want, or the Relic Museum requires additional donations for their growing collection, so you need to find 3 relics, and you would get an equipment upgrade costing 150 credits or less, and a level of fame. The Exploration Guild will give off exploration quests, like you need to reveal a certain number of locations or certain clues on a map. And the Restoration Guild is going to focus on discovering the ruins of the past. So it is another exploration kind of quest to basically explore and reveal different types of locations or recover certain scraps to help with restoration efforts. And then the last guild, I think this is the last guild, is the Guild of the Glider. This is the first rule of this guild is speed. Show them that you can travel fast. So, for example, here at the level 1 quest is you can travel in 15 hexes total. You get some credits, you get all your fuel back, and you get a level of fame to start to level up. Players will work toward gaining fame by participating with these guilds, and you can set the game end to getting a certain level of fame. So a short game is 5 total fame, medium is 10, that says recommended length of play, and a long game is 15. And you can stop the game honestly at any time and return with a new character, new location reveals. There is a lot in here because you're randomly going through with the deck of cards. So each table is going to be fairly well randomized as you go through. The chance of repeating something is not that high as you play through. It can be played with up to 2 players, basically cooperatively, and these players could have different quests active on their character, and they keep separate stats, and they could either choose to travel together or not. In that case, when one or both players reach the required fame, the game is over. So what makes this game unique is first of all, the lack of player death, the lack of combat, conflict, enemies that you're fighting. It really is an exploration feel, and the goals are just to reveal the world and to have the quests as guidance to travel through and find the things that you're looking for and bring them back to build out your map on the hex sheet as you go. It is both, it's interesting to play because the lack of pressure that character death, running out of resources, severe penalty causes, I think is, you feel that in a way. And I think as I was playing it, I felt it both in a positive and a negative way. The negative way is the lack of consequence kind of didn't make me feel, it took away some of the pressure of the decision making. At the same time, it did allow for a way of inhabiting the world and really focusing on what are these suspicious small wind traps, for example. What is this relic that I found? And it's exciting when you come across something that you need, even if it is abstracted. I mentioned that there is an expansion as well. This is the Smuggler's expansion, and it's a short expansion that will give you smugglers, bounty hunters, and mercenaries to sort of do the dirty work. And basically, when you're in a desert location, you can choose to use these exploration tables instead of the ones in the main book. And you can get some quests that are sort of on the darker side of life. If you want to have something like that in the game, and have some smuggling encounters here. You can get rewarded with contraband rewards, for example. It doesn't change the main rule of the lack of character death and dire consequence for running out of water or things, but it is a little more edgy, I suppose, for lack of a better word, to bring those in, and that is optional when you are in the desert here, and this is largely a desert world. So if you're looking for something that is an immersive, unfolding story in a kind of, I want to say, a barren place where you are uncovering things and you find the world unfolding before you, this is a very atmospheric game, and a kind of, it falls into the almost meditative category of games that I think of as solo RPG, because you are encouraged to explore because can be done at a leisurely pace. And I think there's a lot of replay value in the game because it uses the 52 card randomizer as the unfolding mechanic. The chances of the games turning out the same way is pretty slim. And also the different characters, the character backgrounds really do impact gameplay a lot in a good way to make it feel different if you're playing a character whose background is an explorer versus playing a background of the soldier or the navigator.